Namaste, everyone. Welcome back to the second episode of our series, Delivering Self-Service Private Cloud. I'm Satya Shrestha, a Senior Staff Executive Solutions Architect at VMware. And today, I'm joined by my colleague, Pramod Rane.
Hey, Satya. It's great to be back. Thank you.
Awesome, man. Great to have you back. And today, we'll be continuing our exploration of self-service private cloud with VMware Cloud Foundation. Our focus will be on infrastructure as a code capabilities of VCF Automation.
That's right, Satya. In this episode, we will dive into how VCF Automation can help you to define and manage your infrastructure using code and making it easier to automate and scale your cloud environment. That's the idea.
Excellent, man. And we have tons of episodes in line there, right? So we are into our second episode, and topic for today is infrastructure as a code.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get this started. So you guys have seen this slide during the last episode as well. So I want to reiterate that Aria Automation is an automation solution powering VMware Cloud Foundation platform. It delivers a self-service with governance and resources, lifecycle management across not only the private cloud platform, but across our VMware Cloud platforms as well as the public clouds. So this is a snapshot that you have seen in the past. So in this snapshot, you can see several features or areas we will focus on from the capabilities perspective. This episode will focus on some other core capabilities, such as mainly infrastructure as a code and templates. Essentially, what that does, we can use these YAML templates inside the product, version control them, source control them in the Git or GitLab or Bitbucket, sync and change them down from the Git into the infrastructure as a code, right? With that, you have more kind of collaboration because then you're working close with your developer personas who are managing those codes on their laptops, running some IDE platforms, and the general way that your developers and different personas will use them into the infrastructure as a code. Yeah.
Got it. So one question I have, when you say infrastructure as a code, everything that we do in VCF can be used as a code, right? It could be called through API. It could be also integrated with Git or source repositories.
Yeah.
Now, the question I have is, the IaC that we use here, so what languages do we actually support, and what are the languages that our admins or developer personas use for IaC here?
Right. So from the cloud templates or blueprint standpoint, we use YAML, which is yet another markup language, which is pretty common, right? Beside the YAML templates, obviously, there are facilities whereby you can import your codes directly into the product. So your code could be sitting into a YAML file somewhere on your laptop. We can import it from there. We also support Terraform configurations and Terraform codes as well. And we will see that in the demo, actually. Yeah.
Right. And then we also support things like Bash, PowerShell script, and then Ansible, that sort of thing also, right?
Right. So we have out-of-the-box capabilities to integrate with Ansible, Puppet, Terraform, Ansible Tower, open source, and things like that. Besides, in some of the upcoming episodes, we're going to cover the extensibility and orchestration. So in extensibility, we support multiple polyglot languages as well. So for example, Python, PowerShell, Node.js, and things like that. Yeah.
Got it. So it is pretty flexible and also extensible. Awesome, man.
Yes. And beside the infrastructure as a code for this topic today, we're going to, of course, touch base on network automation, which is a very important aspect of automation. With the network automation, of course, continue to provide capabilities around the network and the advanced services like load balancers, like Avi. Advanced load balancer in form of Avi, which we're going to cover for today. So let's move on quickly. Now, you're seeing on the slide that is the Aria Automation Assembler. Essentially, the assembler is the key component in the Aria Automation. And why would I say that? It's because this is where you define the templates or the blueprints. It plays a very crucial role in optimizing the infrastructure workload deployments. Besides, you use the assembler to connect to your multiple endpoints. So when I say endpoints, these endpoints could be your VCF workload domain vCenters, or these endpoints could be your AWS accounts or Azure accounts, right? So assembler is the component which connects to these different endpoints in your private clouds and public clouds, and then essentially allows you to deploy machines, applications, and services that create those resources. The resources are different resources, different form factors, where you create all that magic using the infrastructure as a code. And the other thing that I want to highlight is you and your team develop cloud templates as a code as well. So some people call it cloud templates as a code. We call it as infrastructure as a code in your environment that supports the main objective, which is iterative workflows, meaning from development to testing to production. That's the iterative process. And that's what we want to achieve with this infrastructure as a code.
Cool. So Aria Automation Assembler is the assembly point where we actually do the templating, right? And writing codes or do things via template.
Correct.
And as you said, that it not only supports the on-prem VCF installation or vSphere installation, but also public clouds like AWS, Google, Azure, and many other clouds. Is that right?
Including the VMware clouds like VMware on AWS or the Azure solutions. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, cool. Yeah, really multi-cloud
It is.
capabilities, right? Yeah, cool.
So the screenshot that you see on the
Mhm.
screen is basically the template designer, which essentially allows your platform operation teams or developers to model the business critical applications and the IT services
Yep.
using that visual canvas. So you see a lot of buckets out there. So that's
Yes.
basically the visual canvas. And on the left-hand side, you have list of services. So
Mhm.
those are the services basically you drag and drop into the canvas interface, and then
Yeah.
it builds out your code. These templates can be defined through a YAML format, as I mentioned. Another aspect of this template is that they are cloud agnostic in nature. That
Mm.
means they can be deployed quickly into any endpoints based on predefined policies. That means you don't need to sprawl different templates for different endpoints, such as one for AWS, one for Azure, one for private cloud. Rather, you have one cloud agnostic template, define some policy for the delivery of this templates into the endpoint, and then
Mm.
the workload will get deployed according to those predefined policies.
So
Yeah,
pretty much like define once, deploy in multiple places,
exactly.
and then could be on-prem, it could be
Yeah,
public cloud.
yeah.
Yeah.
And,
So one
and
question I have is now this VMware Aria Automation assembler. We
mhm.
talked about the provider persona and then the consumer persona last time, right? Who's the main persona that's going to be using this to define templates and IaC, that sort of thing? So who are those
Right.
people?
This is a pretty valid question. So,
Mm.
in my experience, I have seen in the field, your platform operation team, your cloud admins spend most of their time into the automation assembler. This is
Yes.
where they connect to the different endpoints. This is where they create different profiles, like network profiles that we're going to see shortly, storage profiles. They create projects. They create t-shirt sizings for
Mm.
different images and sizes and things like that. So, your
Yes.
platform operation team and the cloud admins spend most of the time in the assembler.
Right.
Obviously, developer personas are the one who want to make the changes into the code, push those code, commit those codes into their source code repository, and they want all the magic to happen in the backend behind the scene. So this is the entire synergy and collaboration that we build with the infrastructure as a code with the assembler.
Cool. Cool. Okay. Sounds good.
Okay, so let's move on. Now, this is a little bit more into the Aria automation templates. They act as a guide for automating various provisioning, configurations, and management processes for the infrastructure.
Right.
Templates are made to be highly customizable. I want to
Mm.
really stress on that point, enabling you to be adjusted to a variety of infrastructure requirements. So how do we generally put things behind the scene? So you see those self-service catalogs during the previous episode. So in
Yes.
that self-service catalog, what we did, we had a catalog, we just consume it. But then essentially, when it provisioned that first request, behind the scene, those were some of the templates that we consume actually.
Oh, right. Right. So
Yeah.
self-service catalog was just the front end or the UI
Yeah.
that actually invokes the template
Correct.
behind, right? That's how it
Correct.
works. Okay, got it.
Correct.
Mhm.
And all these templates are coming from the templating engine, which
Mm.
is typically I will show in a demo. So later we'll dive into this templating engine as well, how the template works. And the way we approach this design canvas is really kind of low code approach.
Right.
So say low code approach meaning if you have your code somewhere setting, you can just simply import that code and you
Mhm.
build out your template entirely.
We are
Or
right.
you can drag and drop those resources into the canvas and
Yes.
then start writing the code. There is a flexibility. You can achieve your outcome based on this flexibility using the cloud templates. So we spoke about the cloud templates, we spoke about the infrastructure as a service, but then again, there are different infrastructure characteristics that everybody needs to pay attention to. Because
Yes.
on infrastructure as a code is not going to help. You
Mm.
need to wrap around the infrastructure as a code for your network services, your compute services, your storage services, your advanced services like databases, private AI, and stuff like that. So
Yes.
simplified consumption is an end goal that we are looking at, right?
Right.
So
Right.
end-to-end management means we organize your resources into the template again. As a provider, platform operation team and the cloud admin teams can package this infrastructure and the
Mhm.
common application characteristic into the code, then wrap around some advanced services construct like multi-cloud networking that you're saying, which
Yes.
includes your network profiles, your IPAMs, your IP addressing, your security,
Yes.
firewall policies, your load balancers,
Yeah.
etc.
Mhm.
And from a consumer standpoint, like for a corporate IT, or for your line of businesses, these templates available in form of the service catalogs that we've seen in the last episode. So
Yes.
you see this as a service catalog tile, can be consumed by the
Mhm.
personas that I mentioned, like line of businesses and developers, which streamline the process, making it efficient and productive, right? Because then as a persona, you don't need to know what's going on behind the scene. Your cloud admins, your operation teams are really preparing everything for you just to consume and just not provisioning the resources, but also facilitating those ancillary activities, ensuring a productive workflow. That's the end goal that we're talking about.
Got it. Got it. So when you say multi-cloud networking, so all the networking components that is part of either on-premises networking environment or public cloud environment could be abstracted here, right? And then use it as IaC.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Now, a bit into network profiles, because that's the backbone for your network automation. So basically, the network profile defines the group of networks and the network settings that are available for you to consume into your cloud accounts. Now, basically, this defines a particular region or a data center in the Aria automation construct. That means you could be leveraging on the existing networks available into your AWS cloud account. You could be leveraging your existing networks available into your VCF workload domain, or you can consume entirely on-demand networks as well using our NSX networking. So the idea here is that you define the network profile to support the target deployments, target environments. For example, a small testing environment where an existing network can be used with the outbound access, right? And for a larger deployment or large environment, you do not want your front-end servers just being accessed by your end users. So rather, you want to put a load balancer in front of your front-end or web service, and then you define those networking profiles, which can facilitate load balancer provisioning as well.
Right, got it. So again, this networking profile, do we have to predefine it, or can we make it as a part of IaC and then create the networking profile, like you said, on demand as well?
So usually we predefine the networking profiles based on our requirements. For example, some customers would say, I do not want on-demand networks to be provisioned, but I want to use this particular subnet for this particular application type. In those use cases, basically what we do is we predefine some networks, but then there are some customers who says, I want on-demand network subnets, and those needs to be attached to my workloads. Again, we define those isolation policies. So the isolation policies would be like whether you want on-demand routed network, or whether you need on-demand load balancer, security groups, and things like that. So that's the whole idea of the network profiles.
So both is possible, that means.
Yeah.
Cool.
A bit into advanced networking services now. I'm sure you would have heard this, that we have introduced native out-of-the-box support for automating NSX advanced load balancer based on Avi, and it was GA in February 2024, available with Aria Automation version 8.16.1. So this means you don't need to create those complex workflows or custom workflows from day zero itself for provisioning load balancers. Before this release, if you want to use Avi Load Balancer, everything needs to be scripted, either using orchestrated workflows or our extensibility scripts. But then now with this release 8.16.1, essentially you can do day zero, day one capabilities out of the box to provision your Avi advanced load balancers.
Right. Okay. So all the capabilities that Avi can do now, it can be directly used as infrastructure as a code.
Correct.
And definitely it has simplified the whole operation, right?
Correct. Essentially, what we're trying to do is we are working to start with the features parity with the NSXT load balancer, because NSXT load balancer been there for many years.
Yes.
We have been automating for day zero, day one, and day two tasks. But we're trying to be with the feature parity of NSXT and Avi load balancer, whereby we want to automate day zero, day one capabilities of the Avi load balancer, and soon we will continue to add those day two's capabilities. Now, if you have a question, what about day two capabilities? We have continued to enhance the product to add those day two capabilities, but obviously you can still do the custom workflows with the orchestration and extensibility to create those day two workflows. So for example, adding new members into the existing pool or removing the members from the pools and things like that, you can still do the custom workflows for it, but in future we will able to add those capabilities as well.
Awesome, man. Yeah, this is good.
Cool. So a little bit on load balancers service using a self-service experience as part of the infrastructure as a code. So when it comes to the consumer experience, once again, here is an example of what will happen, right? A cloud admin will present a catalog. The catalog item will have all those day zero, day one configurations of deploying load balancer as a service using the Avi virtual services and VIPs. See, what will happen is you have the Avi load balancer as a service in front of your front-end web service. So essentially, you can package your front-end web servers and databases in such a way that when you provision that application, you will automatically get the load balancer based on and all your front-end traffic is routed into that load balancer.
Got it. So do we have to pre-provision the load balancer, Avi load balancer, and its components like controllers, right, and its service engines? Do we have to pre-provision those before we can consume it here, or can those provision also be done through IaC?
So as of today, what we're looking at, we pre-build your Avi construct outside Aria Automation. That means you define your controllers, your service engines, and keep the Avi environment ready. And then Aria Automation will come in and Aria Automation will consume those Avi construct in order to create the virtual services, the VIPs, the member pools, and stuff like that.
Got it. Okay, so the infrastructure component, the service engines and those controllers should already be deployed, but anything on top of that, operating the load balancer part, that can be done as IaC. That's what I hear. Is that
correct? We abstract those Avi construct from the Aria Automation.
got it? Cool.
Okay, this is probably my last slide. So we have seen day 0, day 1, whereby we now offer its native capabilities. I want to stress to deploy this load balancer as a service using Avi. Now, what happens once the deployment was created? So here is an example of some day 2 actions. It doesn't mean that there are no day 2 actions at all. There are day 2 actions whereby you can reconfigure your load balancer configuration, such as adding different health monitors and stuff like that. You can do those day 2 actions, but some customers have complex day 2 action requirements, which can be customized easily.
Got it.
Okay, so with that, we're going to dive into a live demo. Are you up for it?
Absolutely, man. Demos are the best part of our whole presentation.
Okay, let's do that then quickly. As usual, this portal could be familiar to you. You have seen this in episode 1.
Yes.
So again, what I'm going to do is we have 2 personas here. One is the cloud admin. The other one is Pramod. Pramod is the end user or consumer.
Yep.
So I log into my portal with my credentials and robust role-based access control, which is in place. And I go into the service broker, which is my self-consumption portal.
Yes.
Now, if I go into the catalog, obviously I see the list of catalogs available for me. So we're going to drive out from an outcome perspective first, and then we uncover the behind the scene configurations. Yeah. As an end user, I need some sort of an application, maybe a Apache front-end web server and MySQL database. But then this front-end web server should not be directly exposed to the users, but rather it should be a load balancer in front of it, right?
Yeah, and for high availability also, I may want multiple Apache web servers. Yeah, right. So that could be another config I would want for high availability.
Absolutely. Yeah. So for example, I go into this catalog, which seems the right catalog for me to provision my resources. I'm going to give name like episode 2 demo, right? And application name. Now, this is very interesting, right? We are not only provisioning the workload, but we are provisioning the workload with the DNS capabilities as well. That means my application will be accessed using this DNS fully qualified domain name. Okay.
Excellent.
So I give name to this as EP2. And if I click here, you can see it's going to transform into a fully qualified domain name like ep.app.hgvbc.io. All right.
Yeah.
I'm also creating some users. I'm defining credentials for them. The user that I'm going to create is demo user.
Yes.
The other interesting thing is the application firewall policy. Right. You can see here, my cloud admin has provided this set of policy for me to consume for this application. Okay? So this is hard coded here. Obviously, you can allow your end users to create the policy as well on the go. Now, the cost center, which we have seen in the past. So I'm a corporate user. So I select my cost center. Where do I want to provision this? Remember, I was talking about the endpoints. So this transform into the endpoints or the target environments. Now I'm provisioning this into my VCF workload domain. But obviously, if you have requirement to deploy this into VMware Cloud or any other endpoints, you can do that. Okay. Whether or not I need any notification in form of Slack or Google Space, my cloud admin can provide me those capabilities. I'm not using this for now. Then what kind of database that I need for this provisioning? I have been given 2 choices, PostgreSQL or the MySQL. I select MySQL here. Now, these are some of the properties that are being provided to me for my selection when I provision workload. And these properties are coming from the Avi Load Balancer. Now, what is the load balancer algorithm that I want to select? Whether I want to select list connections, round robin, or consistent hash or something, I have capability to select that. I keep it default to the list connection. Whether or not my Apache web server and MySQL database need OS monitoring using OS or application monitoring using Telegraph Engine. If I want to do that, I can select this as well. The other thing what I will do is how many front-end web servers that I need, as you asked, whether I need 1, 2. Now, the more value you will derive from the load balancer if you have multiple front-end web servers, but we're going to keep it simple here because the provisioning might take longer time in that case. So we keep it simple, just single front-end server.
Okay.
We are doing some load generation as well with this entire provisioning. So I have the load gen server, which is going to consume the workload threads like 25. I have option to decrease this.
Right.
Finally, the health monitor property coming from the load balancer as well. What do I want to monitor? So I want to monitor system HTTP from a monitor standpoint.
So I have a couple of questions here. Number one is that WAF policy, right? So that is also the WAF policy based on Avi Load Balancer. Is that right?
Correct. That's correct. So these WAF policies already created into
Yes.
the Avi Load Balancer. So my
Yep.
cloud admin is not allowing me to create a new policy, but they have already pre-created this policy with set of configuration and the requirements, and they're
Yes.
letting me select that policy for the deployment.
So that WAF policy already exists in Avi Load Balancer, right?
Right. That's right.
Okay, now the second question is around that workload thread. So
Mhm.
that is, you said for load generation, is it like just to show, like a dummy traffic
Exactly.
going to the website?
Yes. As you can see, I have put in the comment here, number of users threads generated to simulate the traffic load on the shopping cart website.
Okay, got
Like
it.
since we're going to show the capability of the load balancer, we want to see some traffic there. So that's the idea that you show traffic on the load
Yeah,
balancer.
like it. Excellent.
Okay. Now, finally, the important aspect of the show back and charge back. So I want to
Yeah.
know how much cost it's gonna incur for this deployment. So
Yes.
obviously I have capability to check the price estimates for my deployment. So
Yeah.
what it's doing right now is checking with the Aria operation, usually do chargeback and show back, and from
Right.
it got this cost for me. So now for deploying this web server, the database, the monitoring, the load balancers and things like that, it's going to cost me about $196 per day.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's pretty neat.
I want to highlight
That's per day.
Yeah, I want to highlight one thing. Obviously, this cost can be fully customized.
Right.
That is based on your own cost centers, based on your own chargeback policies. You can customize this cost. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. And then is it that customized, and do we do it in automation part, or do we do it in VCF operations?
There are a couple of options there. You can do either one of them. That means you can define the pricing cards in Aria Automation, where you define all the costings and the rates and the cost and things like that. But then the same thing you can also define into the Aria operation. So it's your choice where you want to do. You want to do centralized, show back, charge back in the configuration. You can use Aria operations to do all this.
Okay. Cool.
Now I submit this. Of course, as a submit, as a consumer, I want to see what's going on with my request.
Yeah.
I go down here and check. So far, the initialization looks okay. And then the allocation will kick in. But if you still remember our last episode, there could be policy-based governance
Yes.
that could be in place here. So you will see whether there is approval required or not. You see that whether this provisioning requires any approval.
Yes.
If the approval, it won't proceed until someone approves it.
Yep.
If there's no approval governance in place, the provisioning will start immediately.
Yep. Cool.
All right.
Usually, in your experience, how long does it take for the whole provisioning for this kind of setup?
It will take, since this is a live environment, obviously it will take about 8 to 10 minutes.
Okay.
10 minutes, depending how much customization that you have in your infrastructure as a code. Right. That's the theme here. So obviously it's waiting for the admin's approval. So now I wear the hat of cloud admin. I log into my portal, cloud admin, robust role-based access control comes in.
Yeah.
I go into my self-service component, and in the inbox, I see episode 2 demo. Pramod is pending for my approval. Right. I can go into the action and select what I want to do. I just put some change request number here.
Right.
And my job is done.
Okay, so in the enterprise environment, I would imagine when Pramod requests this thing and he's waiting for approval, I would imagine Pramod will actually start pinging cloud admin and say, hey, you know what? I've just deployed it. Can you go and please approve it, right? So there could be some kind of back communication, or like I said, it could be just a Slack notification directly going to them, or email notification going to them, right?
Absolutely. Our email notification. I think ideally, depending what collaboration tools that you want to consume, if you are using Slack or Google Space or even emails for that matter, if you will, you can configure those based on the requirements.
Cool.
Yeah. So now you can see the provisioning is going on.
Yeah.
We are at the 19th number task out of 25. So it's fairly faster that you can see. If I go into the topology, I can start seeing all this magic happening behind the scene. It's deploying the networks. It's deploying the virtual services based on Avi Load Balancer. It's creating the VIP. It's creating security groups for me as well. See the security groups. It's deploying the front end web server for me at the load protection VM for me. Soon it will deploy the MySQL database as well.
Right. So it's touching so many parts, right? So Avi Load Balancer, and then also your NSXT security groups, then databases, which is a virtual machine probably, and so on and so forth.
Right. Now, just to save the time, what I'm going to do is, while this deployment is going on, I will bring your attention to another deployment that I did today only. So once the deployment is successful, what you're looking at, right?
Yep.
Because
Yep.
there are several components. So now you can see the networks, different networks are created. Then your MySQL DB is created. There's a VM name, there's an IP address for it. Your
Yes.
front end Apache web server is deployed, there's a name and IP on it. But
Right.
how do you still access your application? Because the idea is you don't want to access the application directly from your front end web server, right?
No, no.
So what you need to do is you look for this Avi virtual IP component. This
Yes.
is where under attribute, you will see a fully qualified domain name,
Got
which
it. So there's FKDN. Yep.
remember the application name that we defined. So this is the,
Yes.
okay. So I
Got it.
copied this. Again, you have facilities here to shift this fully qualified domain name using Slack notification or Google Space notification to your requester. For
Yep.
example, I don't want to sit onto my self-service portal and continue to monitor. Rather, I
Yes.
want a notification into my Google Space saying that, okay, your deployment is successful. This is your load balancer, fully qualified domain name, right?
Nice.
Easy, right?
Nice.
So that is possible as well. So I get this, I copy this quickly, I put into my browser to see whether my application is fully cooked. So there you go. Now I can
Excellent.
press episode2.app.hgbbc.io and my
Yes.
electronic storefront application is fully available.
So now this DNS management, the FKDN that's happening here, the
Mhm.
name resolution is happening through Avi Load Balancer itself. Is that right?
Exactly. That's what I'm gonna go now.
Yeah.
So what we can see here is you can see what template this deployment has used. It has used this particular template. Okay.
Version 5. Yep.
Now what we can do is we can simply go into this template, but I can't do it because I'm consumer. I'm the corporate
Yes.
user. I don't have access to click on this or go into the infrastructure level management, right?
You're right.
Who
Right.
can do this? Cloud admin can do
I'll
it.
admit. That's it.
So cloud admin can see which customer has deployed what applications or what services that they have deployed. For example, we were checking this one. Now I'm cloud admin, right? As a cloud admin, then let's go ahead and see what's going on. As you can see, this is the one, this is the deployment that I showed earlier, which was provisioned and owned by Pramod. Now you can see this template here. I can go ahead and check what this template is doing basically. And remember, we just spoke about assembler.
Yes.
Going into the assembler component, right?
Yeah.
Checking this particular deployment that Pramod has done, I can quickly go ahead and check this template. Yeah, and this template brings me to the design canvas that we were talking about.
Yeah.
Interesting thing is you can see there are various versions, right? So version 1, 2, 3, final version. So current version number 5 is into the production. See?
Yeah.
If you wish, you can unrelease this and release some other version.
Right.
So let's go back into the other templates and see infrastructure as a code in more detail.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the template that we were just looking at.
Yeah.
You see this template has been built out with so many components, right? So you have virtual services, you have security groups and VIPs and so on. So on the right-hand side, this is where you have your code populated, right?
Yes. Yes.
Now, in general, if I click my front-end server, it brings to that front-end server, right?
Selects the whole block. Yep. Yep.
That's a whole block. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is basically the infrastructure as a code that we define. You can see here for front end VM, it is depend on MySQL server and the Avi VIP, right?
Yes.
There are some other properties like name of this VM, the flavor, medium meaning a t-shirt size, right?
Yeah.
Then how many front end servers that you need? So there is an input property. I'll go into that shortly. So it is taking input from the front end count. All right. It is defined at the top. Then it's also looking at the tag. So this tag is basically the cost centers that we defined. Remember the cost centers? So basically that center will go ahead and look for the tag and based on that it will do the chargeback and show back. Image. It is using Ubuntu 18.04, right? That's the image for the operating system. It's also using the network. Assignment of IP is static using the network profile. We'll get into the network profile shortly. And there's a lot of cloud config that we are doing. The deployment. So this is like a bootstrapping, right? We are not deploying the empty virtual machines, but we are adding the different characteristic of your applications, your packages, and your infrastructure into the deployment. So this is where we are going ahead and asking for packages. Go ahead and deploy these packages and things like that.
Right.
Similarly, it's creating the users and it's setting up the sudoers for the users, right? Something for the MySQL block. You will see similar configuration for MySQL, but instead of using those other packages, now we are using SQL packages. We're installing packages here.
Yeah.
Now, what's going on in the Avi? That's the most important aspect that we want to look, right? So
Yes.
if I click on Avi pull for your tools, this is where now we are bringing the native Avi capabilities into the cloud template. You
Right.
see here now, it is IDEM configuration item. So
Yes.
IDEM for Avi Load Balancer application pool. So this is where you define the description, which Avi controller that you want to use. So that's the Avi controller. Which T1 router that you want to use for this, right? There is a T0, T1 configurations in the NSX. So we are using this
Yeah.
T router.
Yeah.
What port that we want to use for this pool? 80 health monitors. Remember, we selected the health monitors from those drop down. So that's
Yes.
the input monitor. Similar for other properties like algorithm and things like that. But
Yeah.
the other thing where I want to bring your attention is basically the virtual service.
Yes.
Now, this is where that WAF policy is coming into.
Right.
This is the input property once again defined to select that WAF policy.
Yep. Yep.
It is also transforming pool references, virtual service VIPs, and a lot of other things that has been fully automated during the provisioning itself.
Nice. Nice.
Now, if I click on the Avi VIP, once again, you'll notice it depends on certain network to be provisioned first. Once the network is provisioned, it's going to go ahead and look for the controller, Avi controller, which is defined here. You're going to click the router. This is the DNS information, like what DNS that you want to use. Remember, we access the load balance application front end using the load balancer DNS name.
Yes.
So the input property for it. So you define some name and it takes the fully qualified domain name. You can populate this code from the scratch, or you can import this code from your Git Operations or from your laptop or your system, right? So for example, if I close this for a moment,
Yes.
here in the cloud template, I can click on blank canvas, give some name, new template, and then the project. Remember, we spoke about project. This is basically your logical boundary of the infrastructure buckets like compute, storage, network, and other properties.
Yes.
So like mod, that's the project name here. One. And now you can see this is the canvas, right? Design canvas that we spoke about on the slides. On the left-hand side, you see a lot of resources available for us to consume.
Yes.
Right? So cloud agnostic, we spoke about this on the slides, like this is the cloud agnostic nature of some of the resources that can be consumed for multiple endpoints like AWS or private cloud and things like that.
Yeah.
Apart from that, you can use Kubernetes construct here as well, the Kubernetes resources, if you will. NSX components as well, the resources for NSX. But then we just deployed Avi load balanced application. So these are the out-of-the-box capabilities that we have recently added with Aria Automation 8.16.1, right? So you see all these options are available now.
Right.
So you can just drag and drop this and it will start building out your code. I'll show you a simple example.
Yeah.
Before that, you can see there are other components for AWS, Route 53, many other AWS sources. You have the cloud consumption interface, right? The CCI thing, which we're going to see in some of the next episodes of CCI. So you can consume those. You can consume the configuration management capabilities in form of Ansible Tower, Puppet.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Azure resources are there as well, and many other, right?
Nice.
So let's see how we can build out this template from a scratch. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna use a simple VM here.
Yeah.
You can see some code is built out for me.
Yeah. Right.
I want NSX network.
Yes.
So I select this NSX network. Right. So the NSX basic code is also built out. Then what I can do is I can connect this VM to my NSX network like that.
All right.
See, the synergy is created here. Now, it is asking me some details to be filled up, right? So it's asking me image. It's asking me how many CPUs and things like that. So what I can do is I can simply put image. I just deleted those commas. And then I can quickly see my predefined images are loaded here.
Yeah, right.
So now I can select whether I want Ubuntu 2004. Now you have CPU count and total memory. Instead, what I can do is I can delete this. I can simply say flavor. Now, is also defined in the infrastructure side of things. Basically, your t-shirt sizing, right? So large VM or the medium VM or small, I can do that. Okay. Similarly, for network, I can define whether I want existing network or I want on-demand network or I want routed network. I can do all that.
Right, right.
You see these input parameters, this can be changed as well. So if I go here, I can define something like environment, like the endpoint where I want to deploy this, right? So on
Yes.
environment, I can define input properties like this, string, integers, arrays, and things like that. So
Right.
like a target environment.
Mm-hmm.
And then the title would be target environment. Right? I think you're getting, sense
Yep.
of what I'm trying to do. And
Mm-hmm.
normal coding properties that you can define here, one off, and then which one? I want to give them an option. So title VCF,
Mm.
VMware Cloud Foundation,
Mm-hmm.
right? Something like that.
Mm.
And for every endpoint, so remember we spoke about the policy-driven approach. So you
Yes.
can also define the policy around constraints and tags. So
Mm.
you're limiting your end users to deploy a small workload into a specific cluster.
Yeah.
You can manage the provisioning like a huge instance, like 16 gigs of RAM and 4 CPUs or more than that should
Yeah.
only go into a specific cluster. So I can
Right.
find those constraints here, like
Mm-hmm.
tags, environment, dev. Only deploy big instances instead of small, I say large. So large instances should always go into the development environment.
Right. Right.
Something like that. Now, see,
Mm.
this is how we build the templates using infrastructure as a code capabilities using YAML format.
Got it. Got it.
Okay.
Mm.
Now, this is what we something did. We build it from the scratch. I can test this as well.
Right.
That's another beauty that before I release this into the production, into the catalog, I can make sure I can test this properly. So what's the target environment? So this is the input conditions that we defined just now. So
Cool.
I can select and I can run the test. It can say whether it has all the resources parameters correct, and then if it is correct, you can release it. Okay.
Got it.
Now,
Yeah.
so I show you another option, which is uploading your line of code or your template. So
Yes.
I just give a name EP2 import.
So this is your existing template that you have stored somewhere, right?
Correct. So you can see here upload file. So I can
Yep.
select the file and I
Right.
see if I have any template available. For example, this template or MySQL load balancer. I can click OK.
Yep.
Upload this.
Oh.
Okay. My template is here. So
Oh.
think what
Okay.
you want to do, how you want to do, you can
Yep.
use either way. And one final option is Terraform.
All
right?
right.
So I can quickly go into this and I can import the Terraform configuration like TF VMs. That's a template.
Right.
Select the project.
Yep.
And now Terraform we can ingest using the Git operation. So it's looking for my repository,
Yep.
GitHub repository,
Mhm.
the commit ID and the source directory. So source directory Terraform.
Right.
And you can select this quick next. You can see now immediately. It is using vSpec providers for Terraform. All the information here, HashiCorp version 2.0.
Right.
There are multiple variables that I'm defining into my variable.tf file. So all that you can do, you can import and use the Terraform configurations with this cloud templates as well as part of the infrastructure as a code.
So this means that if an enterprise is already using Terraform and they have already code base somewhere, they can readily import that here and then consume from VCF Automation itself, right?
Correct.
So that means their existing investment will still be there, but now they are using through VCF Automation.
Exactly.
This is very powerful.
Yeah, it is. And the other thing I want to quickly show is, look at this is my GitLab. In my GitLab, I have a cloud template.
Right.
This is the blueprint. What blueprint is doing is it's actually deploying the Argo CD CI/CD pipeline.
All right.
I can get this Git repository integrated within my cloud templates as well over here. So it's coming from the GitLab. Now, I'll show you an interesting thing here.
Yes.
Open this. That's the template for the Argo CD pipeline.
Yep.
I'm going to change some property into my code from the GitLab, and we will see it here. All right.
Okay. Let's have a look. Yep.
Go ahead. Yeah. I just changed a simple thing. I'm going to go ahead and say edit this file. But now I'm editing into my GitLab here.
All right.
Change this to, for example, version 3. Yeah.
Yep.
I might change. I can also change the code if I wish to. So the use case here is that if you're using Git operation to manage your codes and change your codes from there,
right,
your automation will also sync with those changes. So
nice.
I commit this changes in the GitLab. Okay. I go back into the cloud template once again, and
Yep.
I say something called sync repo. Okay.
Right.
It take about few seconds, and
Mhm.
then right now you're saying 2, meaning there are 2 versions, but soon there will
Yes.
be another version added here. So this is what we call it as the version control as well with the Aria Automation. Okay.
So nice integration with Git. Yeah.
Correct. So very soon we will see this become, see, you see now version 3.
All right. So it's updated. Yep.
We
So how
change
do you do this integration with Git? Is there
our
setting
code.
you have to go and check?
So if I close,
Mhm.
now you can see the third version
Oh,
came in here, right?
yep. Yep.
Uh, how it's coming into the infrastructure as code. If you go into the infrastructure, you integrate your GitLab. So
All right.
this is where you do all the cooking. So you have
Okay.
your GitLab repository,
Mhm.
a token for GitLab. So it accepts the token.
Yep.
Once you do the validation, then you add the project. Again, that boundary where you want to use this GitLab. And in the project, then
Nice.
I have multiple repositories in my
Yep.
GitLab. So one for
Yep.
Terraform, one for Cloud Template. We just seen this, right? So if you
Yes.
have another, you continue to add the repositories here and sync it. Once you sync, those cloud templates will come into the design.
This
Yeah.
is very cool, man. I know that we are just scratching the surface here, but yeah, very powerful, man. Yeah. This is cool, man. So Pramod, we actually deployed the resource from VCF Automation, right? So in this case, let's just say Avi Load Balancer. I want to see how it looks actually in the backend. Can you show me how it actually looks in Avi side?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go into the resources. So this is the one that I showed you earlier. We can quickly verify this. So I expand this. I just want to quickly highlight we used this one earlier.
Yeah, let's go with the VIP. Yep.
Yeah, episode 2. Now, to verify this in the backend, obviously I can pick the resource name for my VIP.
Yeah.
Copy this one. Make it simple. I can go into my NSX load balancer and go into the virtual service VIP.
Yes.
Okay, because we have multiple there to make it easy. I can quickly search, and that's the VIP. That's the address for the load balancer. Now I can extend this and go into the virtual services, because remember, when we automate this, we are automating virtual service provisioning, VIPs, the pools, and the other stuff. So I open the virtual service, and you can see there's some active access to the website, right? When we access the website, you can see the activity here.
Cool.
You can see the events here as well. So if people continue to access, you can see the events here. And the important thing I want to bring your attention to, you see episode 2, the app domain. That's the one that we use for this demo. And then the application firewall policy here.
Yep, that's exactly what we use.
We use this during the provisioning. So yeah, you must have seen now how we can automate day 0, day 1 for the Avi Load Balancer. So just now we've seen everything from the NSX side from day 0, day 1. But what about day 2? As I mentioned, you can customize day 2 with orchestrated workflows or extensibility scripts. But there are some basic day 2 capabilities available today. For example, if I want to update this deployment and change the load balancer algorithm, I can do that. I can do round robin or whichever suits my requirement. I can add more front-end servers here as well and update it. And then the Aria Automation will make those changes as a day 2 changes. Okay. So
excellent,
man. Available. Yeah, so I think we have gone into a much more details for this episode. We have seen the cloud templates. We've seen various ways of creating cloud templates. We created from the scratch. We were able to import it from the system outside automation. We were also seeing the GitLab integration and how the GitLab source control works. When we change something in the code, the version gets updated into the Aria Automation. We obviously deployed a application with the advanced load balancer, and we were able to access the DNS fully qualified domain name of the load balancer into the browser, and the application is working fine. We've seen properties into the NSX advanced load balancer as well. We also seen the properties from the Avi load balancer side of things as well in the console, and we've seen some basic day 2 capabilities as well. Yeah, man, we covered a lot, right? Fantastic content and really awesome demo, man. So we can definitely see the power of VCF Automation here, right? And its infrastructure as a code capabilities. Yeah, super good. Cool. So excited for the next upcoming episode whereby we're going to touch into the Kubernetes now. Absolutely, man. This is a wrap for today's episode, everyone. And I look forward to our next session where we'll dive deeper into Kubernetes automation. Have a good one, everyone. Bye-bye. Bye.